All right, boys and girls, Ken Smith. Great bass boat search of 2020, 2021. So this is video, I believe it's number 12. Wanted this to be the 7th boat we've reviewed. So if you haven't seen the prior 6 boats, check out right there. If your device has an eye right up there, you can click on that, and it's the playlist of all these videos we've looked at so far. So we review the boats in the first video. In the second video, we do a little bit more review, and then we score the boats, top score 100. And I'm not sure, I think back, best score so far is probably low, mid 80s. I think low 80s has been our best score so far. So I was really looking forward to this particular video. And you know, we've all got some biases based upon things we know and we hear. And I've had a number of my buddies who have left Ranger, which is what I've run now for years and years. I own a 521 L boat, and have gone to Phoenix and have been really happy. So this boat this week I'm looking at is the Phoenix 921 ProXP. Now, if you haven't seen, I just did another video on Garmin, so I just put a live scope on my boat, and again, it's right there if you haven't seen that video. There's 2 parts to that. I'll drop the second part of that actually probably right before you see this, or just after. Actually, I'll drop it on Wednesday. So part of the confusion with Garmin is there's so dang many models. Well, Phoenix has got some of the same issues there. There are, I think I counted 8 models that they make in a bass boat over 20 feet long. And for me, I'm looking at something over 21 feet long. And that really boils down to the 921, let me get them right, ProXP, the 921 Elite, or the 21 PHX. And I'll break down the difference a little bit more as we go through these, because I'm also going to drive, I was going to drive all 3, but I've discovered that I probably don't need to do that. So I'm going to drive the 921 ProXP, which is what you're going to see me in here today, and then I'm going to drive the 21 PHX. So kind of how this all worked, I believe the first boat they built was the 721 ProXP. That's their most popular boat. It's a 20-foot, 11-inch boat. It's got a 96-inch beam. My understanding, I've not been in it, is it's a little bit more tippy. It's a little bit more narrow for the length of the boat, even though it's a 96-inch beam. But it's their fastest boat, and it's basically their best price point boat for over 20 feet long. And I want a big boat, so I'm not going to test that boat. But the next boat they built behind that, the original sort of 21-foot boat, is the 921 ProXP. Now, the basic differences in the cap layout are the 921 ProXP. Sorry, I had to make notes. Even after I did this, I was pretty confused about it. So it has slightly higher gunnels, you're going to notice today, so down the sides of the boat. And my understanding, and you guys don't freak out if you disagree with me, but my understanding is what they really did is they lifted the deck as opposed to making shorter gunnels. So the boat actually rides a little bit higher in the water, above the water line, if you will, in the 921 Elite than it does in the 921 Pro, and even higher still in the 21 PHX. But basically the 921 Pro XP and the 921 Elite are identical boats below the water line. Above the water line, the differences start to be, I know this is confusing, I'm sorry. In the Elite boat, it is rod box on the port side, and on the starboard side, there's 2 boxes. There's a box and a day box, but that starboard front box is not really designed to be a rod box. Now, I was told by somebody from Phoenix that you can get an 8-foot rod in that boat if there's no tubes, which I think is an option. There's tons of option on this boat, which is a little bit, so the guy who designed, or the guy who started this boat, is a tournament bass angler. He fishes on a national circuit. So you'll see some stuff in this boat that's there because a tournament guy said there should be this there. So the boat we're gonna look at today, it is so confusing. I'm sorry, I had to refer back to my notes again. So the 921 Pro XP is big single box on the starboard side, big single rod box on the port side, no day box in front of the driver's console, but then 2 boxes in the middle stacked, okay? The main difference between that boat and the Elite boat, the 921 Elite, is the Elite is 1 main box in the middle and 2 boxes on the starboard side. Now, The one other difference is something that I would like to see in the in all their boats is on the 921 Elite and on the 21 PHX, they have the slam latches on them. One other thing you're going to see different is in the boat I'm fishing out of today, it's a 2020 model. And in the 2021s, which I'm going to show you a little clip of a video, a guy pulled up next to me, Andrew, I believe is his name, at the ramp, and he was in a 920. Let me make sure I get this right. Okay, I believe he was in a 920 Elite. And something I really liked about that boat is on the starboard bow, they've put two separate up-down, as opposed to a flip switch, two separate up-down trim switches, which it looked to me like you could easily control with your foot to trim your boat up and down, which is something I've been kind of wanting throughout this process. I kind of like it on the port side better, but I'll take it on the starboard side. And from what I saw, I don't believe there's any Livewell controls at the front of the boat. Just a thought, and again, as I go through this, I kind of think, what would I do if I were building a boat? If I were building a boat, there's no reason to have Livewell controls on the front deck. But what I would have on the front deck is a light or a blinking light or something that tells me my Livewells are on, so that I know my Livewells are on throughout the day, that I didn't accidentally turn them off or forget to turn them on. Everybody who's ever had a battery die in a boat, your cranking battery dies, it will turn off that Livewell, and then you crank the boat, you get it running again, and your Livewells don't come back on. So crazy things can happen that turn off your Livewells and will cost you fish and cost you money. So that's just something I kind of have thought about as I've gone through this process. There's no reason to have controls up there, but it'd be nice to have an indicator light up there. So that's the main differences. And since the 921 ProXP and the 921 Elite below the waterline are roughly the same boat, I'm not really too concerned about driving the 921 Elite. Now, I have been told by a couple of guys it drives a little bit different, but not significantly so. What I have been told, the drive difference in the two boats is the 921 ProXP is the fast boat, and the 21 PHX is the big water boat. And I've heard from 4 or 5 different sources, the speed difference is 1 to 3 or 4 miles an hour according to how you load them. Well, I can tell you based upon what Dickie, and by the way, let me just cover that. So Dickie's running on this boat a 4-blade, pretty beat up Bravo prop because he destroyed 2 props, and you're going to hear how he did it, at Fort Gibson in Oklahoma a few weeks ago. He destroyed both of his 3-blade Furies. So he is not running the prop to run this boat at top speed. But Dickie told me, he said, look, tournament loaded with another guy in the boat, Livewell's full, 3/4 tank of gas. He said, this is a 73, 74 mile an hour boat with a good prop on it. And so we touched about 70 in it with he and I in it. I believe it in 3 blades will almost always, other than on go fast boats, will almost always outrun 4 blades. So so let's just kind of go through the boat now. Sorry, that was a super long introduction, but it is confusing looking at all the different Phoenix models, but it really breaks down to the 921 ProXP or Elite, which is basically just a different top cap, or the 21 PHX. They're all 20 feet 11 inches long with 96-inch beams. I believe the dimensions are relatively same all the way to the front, but we'll know that once we get them measured up. So we'll get this boat done, and we're going to get into a PHX somewhere in the next 3 to 4 or 5 weeks, and we'll get that review up as well. So let's jump right into my day on the water with Dickie in his 921 ProXP. Here we go, guys. Good morning, guys. Phoenix 921 Pro XP, maybe. so we got to our first place and we swapped seats. I wanted to show you some of the features of the boat as we kind of rode down the lake. So you see it's got a good old crap handle on that side. The other side, you can't get your hand down in there. You'll see later, the seats do have a loop you can reach down and grab a hold of, but it's so big, I found it hard to hold on to. And if you had gloves on, I feel like it would be really hard to hold on to. So I didn't love the right-handed oh crap handle in the passenger seat. You see the layout, 2 boxes in the middle, a big box on either side. It actually has, and we talk about it a little later in the video, passenger console actually will go in and out of that boat without any tools. It's a real cool feature there. See, it's got a couple little day boxes right in front of you, and then there's a neat little cubby hole to the side. But you'll also note, it's got pretty tall gunnels, which is the feature of this boat specifically, that it's got taller gunnels than the Elite and or the PHX boat do. So boat rode really nice going down seas, trailing seas, obviously with a real skilled driver at the wheel, which helps a lot when you're in water like that. So we're in the Phoenix 921 ProXP. So just doing a walk around in the boat. It's a traditional box layout, except on the front deck there's 2 boxes there. What they did was they built a shelf here for you to mount your units on, and that may be the best solution, as we've talked about. As opposed to actually mounting them in dash, you can put 2 across there. Guys, sorry for the cutaway, but on the website I see this dash available in the 921 XP. Now I'm not sure if this is the 2021 dash or if there's 2 options available. So I will find that out and I'll make a note below. But this looks to be the 921 ProXP 2021 model dash, and there may be 2 options available. I'll note below in the comments. You don't have to buy an additional bracket, I don't believe. I think you can just put your regular brackets on there. It's very solid. Flip switches down there, which I'm fine with, but once again, they're not backlit. And as Dickie said, you can figure it out as you use it enough, but there should be either backlit or a light up here like we saw in the Bullet, so you can see what in the world all your controls are. I don't know why they didn't think about that. That's actually a little push-out box cleat. Excuse me, a little push-out cleat, but you can see Dickie's actually using it as a cable control. Down there is your USB chargers, UBS, I always get that, USB chargers. Kind of hard to access and not in a box. They do give you a little tray down there you can put stuff in. Fuse panel down there, so it's pretty easy to access your fuses. That's a good idea. You can see Dickie actually is using that as a cable management system, which is actually a pretty good idea. I did notice, so he's running a Bob's jack plate as opposed to an Atlas jack plate. And I will say I like that system. Let me light it up for you. So you saw I just lit it up. That's actually easier. I've talked about this before, how it's hard to see some digital instruments at speed, and it's actually easier to read the level of your jack plate with that than it is to be looking at a digital readout. You guys know I like having analog, and there you go. So you've got your battery, you've got your fuel, you got your water pressure, and you got your trim all right there, real easy to see. A speedometer, no, I'm sorry, tack. I was about to say, why would anybody put a speedometer in a boat, but a tack right there. Dickie's running the Solix units, which I will say I like that unit, and I like how he's got it mounted on there. I don't know how deep that is because he's been on the road all year, so he's got literally everything but the kitchen sink in here. And speaking of which, let me just share a story with you while Dickie's fishing along here. So we were fishing a team tournament a couple years ago, and I said, all I need you to do is empty one little box out for me. And he said, all right, I'll do that. You remember this story? Yeah. He's putting his mask up. So that's the only box I asked him to empty out. He said, all right, I got everything I could out of there. So I get there the next morning, and that box is full.
and it had a little bit. It had less space than a shoebox. So I jammed my stuff in there and went fishing, and some point during the day I'm digging around down in there and I see this handle sticking up out of there, and I'm like, what in the world would Poolan be? There was a dadgum chainsaw in there. He had not emptied a thing out of that box. All right, on the front deck, that does not look to be a very big mounting space. Now, I don't like the way Dickey's mounted his units, but that's just the way Dickey mounted them. You could stack units right there real easy. I do like the little trim switches. Those are, and then you guys know this, I like being able to do that with my foot. I would rather see them over there, but they're not bad out of place, and if you stacked your units, they would be pretty accessible right there. Now, Phoenix, as you guys probably know, has multiple 20-ish, 21-foot boats. This one has 2 boxes. Yeah, this one's got, well, again, I mean, he just got back from Erie and Dardanelle, so he's carrying everything. I don't fault him for that at all. I kind of like the 2-box layouts. I've talked about this before. In my boat, and I think in one of the other Phoenix boats, that's all 1 box, right? Well, the problem with that is if it's raining and you open that 1 box, everything in there is going to get wet. I actually like that 2-box setup. You know, and Dickey just pointed out you can distribute your weight better doing that too. You can move your heavier stuff to the back. Pretty good size box there. You see he's just carrying a couple spare rods in there. He doesn't carry a lot of weight to the front right there. Got a lot of wind noise. And then over here, Phoenix is staying with the rod tubes. I'm kind of thinking I don't like those much anymore. It's got a nice rack back there. It looks like it'll hold a bunch of rods. I'm actually surprised at the number of rods in there. I would have thought Mr. Newberry might have had a few more. Did you miss one? Okay, I like this, by the way. So what they've done is they've lifted where the, and by the way, this actually lifts out. He had that out when we got in the boat. They've actually lifted where the butts of these rods go. And what I like about that is they're not sticking up in the air, right? They're nice and low. It's got a nice secure place. 2 good old crap handles. Those you could not get any more solid. Now I didn't check to see how, if you can actually grab a hold of this one. No, you can't grab a hold of that one. I don't like that. I mean, in a bind you could get in there, but if you got gloves on, that's going to be really hard to get a hold of. This, by the way, is one of the coolest things I saw in the Phoenix. This is the first thing I saw in the boat the first time I got in here. That's your net. That's net storage. That's a good idea. And that is really nicely well hidden down there. That's something that needs to be fixed. That's not a good place for your car angler to grab a hold of. That's good. That one's fine. So I didn't know about this. Dickey showed this to me. This is a pretty neat little cubby hole. He is steady missing fish at the front of the boat. So you lift that, and then you can lift that. And that's actually where he keeps his YOLO Tech. If anybody, so by the way, I'm actually a little bit stunned that there is in fact a spinning pole in this boat. And it's got a drop shot tied on it. Wow. What are these things? Oh, that's a broken light.
I got the good one over there.
I saw it over there. But that's a neat little setup right there. You see he's destroyed a light. Did Lake Erie win that light?
Oh, Lake Erie won a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Lake Erie tore a bunch of stuff up. So does this just lift out? Yeah, there you go. So that just lifts out, and he kept it in there, but he put it in there for me. Close it back up where it'll go down. So you see it's got a lip on it. You close this one, and then you can close the one below it.
When the console's in, that one just doesn't open.
Yeah. Dickie just made the comment, I think I had the camera turned off. When the console's in, this one won't open, but no big deal. So that just slips right back in there. Livewell system. You know what that right there is, that nastiness? That is Lake Dardanelle. That lake is so nasty. Dickie Newberry's always got a seat in the back for his co-anglers. Uh-oh, that one's locked. He must have secret stuff in there you don't want me to see. Pretty good sized boxes. Again, it's hard to tell with the amount of stuff he's toting right now. Finished boxes. Dickie, how's the lighting in the boat in the dark?
Well, they use a red light over on the side. It's not a bright light. That's an LED light. I don't know if you can change colors or not, but it's red, and I leave it red.
Yeah, so you don't ruin your night vision.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
The box lit, everything inside
Everything
lit.
in here lights up, including your live wells.
That's something new you're seeing a lot of manufacturers. I've not talked about that, but most of these boats we've reviewed, you do have lights in the live well, which makes sense. By the way, I like the seats a lot. I guess I'd have to say those are the seats. Those and the basket seats are the two seats I like the most so far from all the boats I've been in. By the way, port and starboard places to stand. Should a fella need to stand back there for some reason. Sump access, it's got those same trays like we saw in the Camus. It's got the, let's say, inexpensive straps for your batteries. We got prop storage back here. So there's a trap floor. I can't tell. It looks like it might screw down. It may not. So it looks like the removal of one battery will get you access to your sump. You can see the sump down in there. I don't know how well you guys can see that or not.
Do you have to remove the battery?
It looks like you do have to remove one battery, Dickie. There you go. There's the rest of your batteries. He's got his charger over there. Got his power pole blade pumps over there. So you saw us coming across there. We were running right at 70, but this is not what you would call his speed prop on this boat right now. So he kind of tore a prop up. So he tore up his 3-blade, and he's turning I'll check the prop when we pull it out of the water. Do you remember what pitch is on that 4-blade?
25.
So he's turning a 25 pitch 4-blade on here right now. Is it a Fury or is it a Tempest?
Fury.
It's a Fury. Okay, so.
No, it's Bravo.
I'm sorry, he said it's a Bravo. It's a Bravo. So the one thing I noted is the boat has tremendous mid-range acceleration, which my boat does not have. But I mean, when you're running along at 40 and you want to go 65, it's really, really quick. And I mean, the boat, the term I used to Dickie was it's got great throttle responsiveness. It just really, it'll get it in that mid-range. Guys, just to clarify on this, I did speak with the Texas Phoenix rep who knows his boat. So there's 4 aluminum plates in there, 3 in the floor and 1 in the front, so you can actually access your fittings on your live wells should you need to. But the 3 in the floor are screwed down. He said based on how your batteries are configured and whether you're running power pole pumps, the most you would have to remove would be that single battery. He said that's Dickie's kind of is the worst case scenario. If you're running a big lithium battery, if you're not running power pole blades, there's a couple of ways you can configure it where you can get to that stuff real easily. So we were just looking in the sump, and Dickie said, you know why that's so dirty back there? And I said, no. He goes, well, at Fort Gibson, he was going back in an area, and it was super shallow. So give our viewers a tip on how you can get a boat on pad.
Well, if you shut down in the back of a creek and you find out it's only like 18 inches deep, and now you got to put it back on plane to get out of there. After several tries, I put my power poles down and put them down to the bottom, and took off that way. That way your back end doesn't squat. Power pole people might be upset about that, but it saved me, because it would have been an airboat come in there for over a mile to get to me.
So he literally put his power poles down so the back of the boat wouldn't squat. Got it to speed, I guess, and then jerked the power poles up to run back out of this area. So there was some mud in the back of the boat from him trying to get in and out of there. Again, he has been nothing but on the road. So he's been to Fort Gibson, Erie, and Dardanelle all in the last month, right? So this boat has been on the road. By the way, so to that point, this boat's come off of Erie, and I can tell you from fishing with this guy for a long time, if there was going to be a boat that had a stress crack on it, he'd have put it on it, and it's not. So the boat stood up to that really well. The boat's dirty, but the boat stood up to it really well. It does have high gunnels up here, which I also noticed a couple of the Phoenix models have the higher gunnels and some have the lower, but I'm actually okay with that. It's an appearance thing, and we've talked about this some, not on camera, but if those are real low, it actually makes the deck look bigger. But you guys know we're measuring these things, so we're not seeing that. We're proving the width by measuring them, not by how they look.
Oh, that's a good man.
I don't know. I feel my head shake.
Oh, it's big.
He is down in the stuff.
Oh, fuck, look at that tail. Three-pounder.
He ain't got a clue he's caught. He just knows he's in a ball of grass.
3-pounder or 4?
I'm afraid to reach in there because there's a whole bunch of hooks in there. He's solid 3-pounder.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 3, 4, 3.5.
That's 2 casts later, by the way.
Yeah.
Which way's that guy looking, Nick?
He could see you.
That's solid. That one was angry.